All right, well, it's one after, so here we are. The first item on the agenda is, and I don't know that we're going to get to all of this, you can see some of the items at the end are time permitting, is the new surprise bill language. Okay, so you may remember, you almost certainly remember because a lot of people use it, the old language. I consent to appropriate treatment and including applicable insurance payments to be responsible in total charges up to 2 times the Medicare rate. Now, this has been used a number of times. We don't know exactly how many because we don't get notified every time. Excuse me, we generally only get notified if there's an issue. And we had 2 issues come up that frankly we didn't think of the first time around. One is that the only way you can pay 2 times the Medicare rate is if you know what you were billed for, which means you need an itemized bill. So that's item number 1, is the consent needs to include an itemized bill. Item number 2 is that this did not occur to us either, that somebody would use this consent, which was printed on their insurance card in this case, but also sign the form consent. Okay, so there's some things you just learn through experience, right? And that was one of them. So those 2 items, itemized bill and anticipating the possibility of somebody also signing the wrong consent, are reflected in the new surprise bill language. It says, superseding other consents, note that superseding has an S, I consent to responsibility, including insurance, for up to 2 times Medicare following receipt of an itemized bill for appropriate treatment. Okay, so it's just about the same length, because you don't want to make it so long that you raise the antennae of the intake person, but it has a lot more information in it. So that solves that. And if nobody has any, if you have questions, just use the Q&A, and somebody will, Mark, you probably will let me know that the Q&A is in use. So that's the first agenda item. Oops. I'm sorry, the second agenda item actually requires me to switch to a different presentation. So Xing out of this one and into the discussion of the new engagement tool. Okay, now this is not a Quizzify product. Quizzify is just a big fan of this engagement tool. This comes from the Validation Institute. It does not take long to describe. The engagement tool is so user-friendly and so elegant that we literally will only take 16 minutes of this hour to go through it, not including Q&A. You don't need to know about me. So let's start with what gets confused or conflated with engagement, what is not engagement. Completing a health risk assessment, participating to collect incentives or satisfy a wellness requirement, getting free stuff like glucose scripts, or vendor-reported engagement. Vendors will always tell you they have high engagement. Now, in the case of Livongo, they're used well enough, widely enough, that there are actually some reviews on LinkedIn, I'm sorry, on Amazon for Livongo, as you can see, and they kind of say the opposite of what Livongo says. So a question is, well, you say, well, people are engaged because they completed the health risk assessment. Do participants tell the truth on the health risk assessment? Is a much different question. Out of roughly 3,000 people, this program from WellSteps, and I'm using it because it's publicly available information, and in fact, they actually won an award because the program was quote unquote so good. Out of roughly 3,000 people, the following number of people reported smoking and alcohol use. So 77 and 691 out of 300,000. Now 77 is about 2.5% of people said they smoke. Well, we know that 17 or 18% of people smoke. So most smokers were lying. Now, I might also add they were lying about the number of days a week that they smoke. I mean, you usually smoke every day. 691 admitted to actually drinking, very modest amounts of alcohol, I might add. That's 671 out of 3,000 is 23%. We know that 70% of people drink. So they are not engaged in the health risk assessment. They are completing the health risk assessment to get money, okay? They're not telling the truth. They're not getting good information back because they're not telling the truth. You also, another thing that gets confused with engagement is surveying the people who've completed whatever program that you have. I mean, these are the people who completed a wellness program. And I got to ask you, no matter what company you're with, does this seriously look like a cross section of people in your company who are about to have a heart attack and thank goodness they entered a wellness program? No. This kind of survey is called a last man standing program, where you only survey the people who complete it. And one of the things that this new tool from the Validation Institute does, as you'll see, is count everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. So what you would look for in an engagement tool starts out with surveying unengaged and dissatisfied employees as well as engaged employees. Because as you saw from this Amazon or the Amazon example, if you don't survey engaged, unengaged, and dissatisfied employees, you don't get a fair assortment. You would also want to measure each program not just on some random absolute basis, but relative to one another, because you have a limited amount of resources. You want to make sure you're using those resources wisely. And the only way you can do that is by rank ordering the engagement, the cost-effective engagement of each of those. You want to adjust for an engagement level as a whole within an organization. And we have organizations where, you know, if 15% of people participate in a month, that's a failure. For the record, we don't generally fail. What we have other organizations where 15% participate in a month, that's a big success. And it all depends on the engagement level within the organization. So you want to be able to adjust your engagement expectations of any program for your engagement of employees in general. You want to compare the engagement to the cost. Higher cost programs should get more engagement. You want to be able to compare your employee engagement to other organizations by program, including things like mental health, everything that you have that someone else has. You want to say, gosh, I want to see how we do versus other people. This is the only item that on this list that the Validation Institute will not supply you for free. You'd have to pay them for that. Speaking of free, everything else is free. So you can use this tool free. It's quick and easy for you and your employees. And finally, the measurement is not confounded by the pandemic because the pandemic affects everybody, but this engagement tool does not do a historical comparison or anything like that. It's a particular point in time. So you put that all together, and that gives you the Validation Institute's engagement tool. And we'll be sending you this, so you'll be able to click on it and download it and start using it. Here's what it looks like. There are 3 questions per benefit. Now you have to ask about multiple benefits because you want to be able to compare them to one another. How often did you use it, and was it useful to you? And then there are a lot of benefits like an EAP or a fertility benefit that very few people use, but they like the idea of having them around. And that's the 3rd question. Does it enhance your view of the company? And then there's an open field for comments. The way you measure is you take the number of uses times the usefulness, and that gives you an engagement score of an engagement score, which is going to be the y-axis. And then the 3rd question is going to give you the size of a bubble, which is going to represent the impact on a corporate culture, regardless of the number of times it's used. So like, it's very cool to have a fertility program around, for example. And what you want to do then is, you know, the cost of your programs. Your cost is going to be the bottom axis. Your engagement score, use times usefulness, will be the top axis. And you're going to look for programs up here. The programs in this example, we're allowed to use this example because it's from a city in Arizona called Gilbert, Arizona, and it's public sector. They measured the health risk assessment and the screening. Now, those 2 were not priced separately, so they and we just arbitrarily separated out the price. But the screening clearly costs much more than health risk assessment. The EAP, the member portal, and it was a very cool portal. Banner Aetna's portal is very cool. There's no doubt about it. It combines the medical and the insurance information on one page. And then there was Quizzify. And this will shock you, but Quizzify won. Quizzify always wins. We have a very low price, and largely because people like it and they play it, we have a very high, well, I don't know what else you'd look for in engagement besides liking and playing. We have a very high score. Screening scores very low every time you do this. The health risk assessment, small bubble, not found to be useful, also scores low. The EAP had a decent sized bubble, scored higher, but still didn't really get used. This was pre-pandemic. And the member portal, where Banneretna asked us to ask a question about it every month, which we did, and it was a good portal, so it was easy to come up with questions. We were able to help them get the score much higher for the portal than a typical portal. I mean, I myself, I'm a member of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. I've been a member for 30 years. They were a consulting client forever of mine as well. I have absolutely no idea how to access my information on their panel. So if you average all the other benefits and you compare to Quizzify, in this particular example, an engagement and cost, the average cost of all these things held up by the screening, increased by the screening, turns out to be about 25,000 per thousand. And the average of the usefulness score, the engagement score, is about 500. So in this case, Quizzify is half the price, approximately, and and 4 times as engaging. And our guarantee is that we're going to be 2 times as engaging. So this particular time, being half and 4 together, makes us 8 times as engaging. So our 2 times guarantee would easily be exceeded. It would almost be impossible for this not to happen. So next steps is you can review the cost of all your programs and make sure you know what they are. And you can either do this all with incentives or without incentives. It just has to be the same for every program. You can download the tool. You can survey some employees and tally the results. You can demand that your lagging vendors become more engaging and drop programs that aren't cost effective, and add other programs that will guarantee engagement. And that's pretty much it. I said 16 minutes. It was 12 minutes. And did anything come in on the Q&A?
One question, why would somebody not use this tool?
It does seem like it's an obvious tool to use. I mean, it's free, it's completely valid, it doesn't take time away from your employees. What we have found is that and you got to keep this in mind, and we don't mean this in a pejorative or negative way, but many organizations don't want to use it because it will make some programs look bad. So just keep that in mind that you use it. You can still have the programs look bad. We're not going to put this up on our website. You don't have to share it with us if you don't want to. We won't share it with anybody. But just keep in mind that they're going to be winners and losers. I don't see anything else in Q&A, so I am going to X out of this. And then I think I'm up next on the agenda as well to review the recent blog posts. So I'm going to close this out altogether and go to the blog posts. So there are a couple of recent blog posts that you might want to take a look at, because it might encourage you to have us change the curriculum or focus on certain things. And one is the blog post called "Just Because It's Healthcare Doesn't Mean It's Good for You," where it turns out that we already knew this, and probably most of you already knew this, but we got more data on it, that Americans are vastly more likely to be harmed by overutilization of the medical system than by not getting enough health care. So we have many questions that are aimed at overutilization. We like to sprinkle them in, because if you ask too many questions about overuse, your employees are going to think you're just trying to save money. So, which of course you are, but you're also trying to keep them from getting sucked into the treatment trap. So that's one we want to make you aware of. This is a good one too, about overrated foods, but the particular one that I wanted to draw your attention to is the top 20 easiest employee behavior changes. This is kind of the Quizzify greatest hits. So you might want to look through this and say, gosh, like to ask some more questions about this topic or such and such. And the reason there's a Yo Play up here is is that yogurt, some yogurts are very healthy, but we tell people if you recognize the brand name from your childhood or it's fruit flavored, the chances are it's full of sugar. That's pretty much all you need to know. Yoplait is both a name we recognize from our childhood and fruit flavored. So this tiny little 6-ounce container has just massive amounts of sugar. It's almost impossible to imagine how they can get this much sugar into 6 ounces. It's like, do you want a little yogurt culture with your sugar kind of thing? So I would recommend taking a look at that as well. So I believe, and I could be wrong, I'd have to go back to the agenda slide. Is that it for me, or am I supposed to be, am I up next as well?
We're going through the vaccine hesitancy.
Oh, yes. Okay, I have that. Thank you for that. I have that up here too. It's kind of hidden behind. So those of you who have not used the vaccine hesitancy questions or have used only some of the vaccine hesitancy questions should be aware that we've got 25 vaccine hesitancy questions, which we can put in your panel in a matter of minutes. It's frankly way more too many questions than you need. So you could actually make 2 quizzes out of it and have a few left over, or maybe there are a few you don't like. And most of this information, it's very non-lecture focused. It's all informative. We'll just give one example here. Let's see, I can't seem to get over to the editing function. So let me just blow up the screen. Here we go. Okay, so we have one example here. So which of these presidents shown here in their official White House portraits did not receive and will not receive the COVID vaccine? Now, we're not going to make a polling question out of this because, you know, we're not going to make a polling question out of it. Your choice would be Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Donald Trump. And the answer, of course, is George H.W. Bush for the simple reason that he's not alive anymore. So if you have any vaccine hesitancy issues, and you have only used some of our vaccine hesitancy questions or none of them, we are tan-breasted and ready to give you some more. And with that, Deepali, what is next on the agenda? I don't have it in front of me.
I believe it's the mobile app that Peter's going through.
Okie doke. So I'm going to unshare, and Peter will take over the screen.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming again. And so, as just a quick preamble, you know, I think the kind of the theme we try to pursue with our products and services is sort of simple but very valuable. And I think this one is sort of a very good example of that, where what we had before, as some of you saw and Al mentioned, is we had sort of these Apple Wallet passes that had questions you could ask your doctor. And, you know, many people use those, and that's also our kind of emergency consent is on there. So that was, you know, quite well received. So we decided to try to see if we could take this up to the next level and basically just package this all in a very straightforward way that anybody can kind of pull up at will. So this is mobile.quizify.com. You can go there now. This is you know, live, and it's been live for some weeks now. And we just essentially package all of the content that we would like you to have available if you want to ask your doctor in one place. And we're also going probably to be adding to this and refining this over time. So I'm showing you this kind of, you know, on a laptop, obviously, but you can, this is actually designed primarily to be on your phone, because that's when you'll be at your doctor's. So, you know, it's very simple. It's phone oriented. And, you know, for example, if you want to know about wisdom teeth, you know, here are some questions you could ask to sort of push back a little bit on whether you really need the wisdom teeth. I mean, this would have been great if I had this, because I sort of got suckered into getting my wisdom teeth removed when they weren't really impacted or anything, but it was, you know, kind of just in case. So, you know, prime example of where if I had this, I would have probably thought twice, or at least asked some more questions. So, you know, this is obviously brand new. It's a very simple little site. You know, I can't show you in this format because I'm on my MacBook, but but you can actually, what you can do is make a little icon when you're on your phone, when you're on a website, you can hit the little thing at the bottom and save it to your home screen. And then it kind of opens, you know, from your home screen as an icon as well. And there's something that kind of should pop up to prompt you to do that. So so yeah, so I'd encourage you all to try it, mobile.quizify.com. We're going to be expanding probably this to have some additional things over time. So if there's something that, you know, you think would be additive in terms of something you could do at the point of care with your doctor, or potentially other things as well, then please give us that feedback, and we will try to incorporate it. But yeah, we've been, you know, Al, I think we've sent this around to quite a few people, and I think some people are using this now. Isn't that right?
My understanding from talking to people is that this gets wide use, as does the surprise bill consent. The difference is that the surprise bill consent has been around long enough that we're, you know, getting, I'm not going to call it negative feedback at all. Everyone has been very happy with it, but we've, as we talked about earlier, learned a couple things to improve it further. I mean, there are very few products that when they go out, you don't find some things you want to improve, and those were two great improvements: the itemization and the supersede. Now, in the case of this app, it's fairly obvious what the next steps will be, which is we're going to add more things to it.
Right. Yeah, that's another benefit of having it in this format, is that, you know, if with passes, there's a little bit of a process to keep them updated. Whereas here, if we decide if we decide something's important to add, you know, it could be live, you know, minutes later potentially. So so it's always sort of the latest here. Yeah.
Right, and this is really great if you know, you just put out a dental basics or a dental quiz, and it's a continuation of taking that information and kind of using it in the real world.
Yeah, and that's actually a good kind of thought about where we will probably end up going with this, is that, you know, one useful thing obviously is these sort of summary questions, but another useful thing that some people have benefited from is being able to kind of hunt through previous question content and, you know, remind themselves of something, or perhaps even to show somebody else, or so on. So that's sort of that's very likely something we'll add soon here, is the ability to log into your account, or to access, you know, if it's a public quiz, access a public quiz, and sort of have some way to be able to search through questions and so on. So kind of like one thing is this and one thing's a question search, and along those lines. You know, the point is basically, the way I think of it is, it's sort of like, if you could kind of boil down Quizify to just like a few reminders that you could pull up on your phone really quick, you know, it should be here. Yeah.
You know, it occurs to me as we say this, I mean, normally it's the attendees who ask the questions, and we have Q&A coming up next, but can we, maybe we can't because it has to be downloaded, but can we actually link to the question, to the app as a learn more, or does it have to be downloaded first, kind of thing?
So this is not a download. This is just a website. So you can link. Yeah, we could link to whatever we want. In fact, we already link to at least one other thing, which is, you know, not all of these have Apple Wallet passes attached, but the ones that do will have this guy here. So, you know, so you could have it in this format if you like, or you could have it in the Apple Wallet if you like. So, but it could have been anything. This could be, you know, we might put some reference material in some of these. Blog posts, videos, all sorts of stuff can be attached. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so the next agenda item is just to throw the floor open for Q&A, because this is a user forum. And do people have particular issues they want us to address? Look in the...
To do that, you would go down to the bottom of your Zoom and click raise hand if anybody.
You know, one of the things, Al and Peter and Topali, that comes up a lot is when we put these questions out there, some of our employer groups might be state employees, and they might be on grandfathered plans that are very generous. and they don't want to be perceived as telling their employees not to go to the doctor. And they also don't want to be perceived in any way of having an employee avoid a procedure that they might have really needed. So the point that I'd like to emphasize here is that Al's been very careful about writing these questions so that when you actually look at them and review them, they're not pushback, they're really inquisitive. And because our health system is got this machinery in place so that as soon as you complain about back pain, you're going for an MRI, and then you're possibly even going for surgery before trying physical therapy. That's really out of control right now. So it doesn't take any pushback. It just takes an employee who's empowered to be inquisitive to reduce the amount of this unnecessary care. And so that ends up being a lot safer for your employees. And we're careful to make sure we say, you may need a scan, but ask a few questions first here and ask these questions to your doctor. So we're empowering them in a safe way. But because we're doing so many extra CAT scans in this country, largely due to the profitability and the machinery that's now been built into hospital systems and own doctors' practices, these questions can really benefit people. It's not only making your employees more safe and helping to make wiser decisions, but it's also going to save a fair amount of money, because the scans, when you're talking about a CT scan, the average cost of something like, according to Healthcare Blue Book, is something in the vicinity of $800, and MRI is $1,200. And if your employees have high deductible plans, it can really put a burden on them if they think they need a scan when they don't.
So to that point, I'm sorry, Peter.
Oh, so I was just going to briefly say, I think the experience I had with the wisdom teeth removal is exactly illustrates that point, where I don't believe that cost me anything, because I had a sort of pretty gold-plated kind of corporate dental plan, but like, it does cost you the fact that you kind of are swollen up and in some pain for a week or two, and you're taking some medication for that, some pain medication. So it's like, it does kind of throw you off for like a solid 2 weeks. So that's a cost. And and the narrative the dentist sort of told me was like, well, it's maybe it's not an exact problem right this second, but if it keeps going or whatever, it will be a problem one day, so you might as well do it now. It's like, I mean, there's a lot of people in that kind of situation, which is very marginal, right? It's not like you're avoiding vital treatment. It's completely, you're just getting pushed into it, right? Because the person wants to make money. And in that case, questions would have probably just made the situation go away almost immediately the moment he saw that I was being a little more inquisitive,
Well, I have a controlled experiment, quote unquote, on that exact topic, which is that my son had his wisdom teeth out before Quizzify really got going. And then my daughter, when she turned of age for the dentist to say that she needed her wisdom teeth out, I had a bunch of Quizzify stuff up, and we had enough sense to start asking questions. Well, the same dentist, same family, presumably same, genes for the wisdom teeth, she still got hers, and they haven't caused any problem. There was just actually a big article on dentists overusing procedures. But I just wanted to go back to Mark's point about, we're not proposing that you have the Lincoln Douglas debates here with your doctor. If you look at scroll down our testimonials page, it's all about asking questions. You just say, do I need silver diamine fluoride? And the dentist, sometimes they push back, but sometimes they say, sure. That's what they do. They know full well that they're supposed to use silver diamine fluoride, but they don't propose it. But if you suggest it, they will take you up on it. And this is true testimonial by testimonial, that if you go through these things, you will find that all folks did was ask a few questions, and they got, the doctors stand down. You don't have to get in a big debate. So I encourage people to go to the testimonials page.
I had two dentists, Al, try to pretend to me that they don't know what it is, SDF.
We actually have that as a question. We actually have to, if your dentist says that they don't know about SDF, and then we have kind of a joke answer that says something like, we're not calling anybody a liar, but it has been FDA approved and is taught in dental school, and it's the first line therapy according to the American Dental Association. So I suspect they have heard of it. But yeah, I mean, they're just making that up. Every dentist has it. And here's now just speaking of silver diamond fluoride, if we don't have any other questions right now in the question box, and we have a little extra time, um, people have asked me, why doesn't the manufacturer just advertise this directly to consumers? And if you go to the site, the Elevate Oral, I think it's called, in fact, I'm even going to do it real time here. I didn't think of it ahead of time. Elevate Oral Care, it's called. And you look at their silver diamine fluoride. This is what the dentists see. Okay, so I got to put my reading glasses on here. Professional office products. Let me see, where is it? Advantage Era silver diamond fluoride. Now they don't even in their silver diamond fluoride, they don't even say like they don't say you can use this to to replace cavities, to replace drilling and filling, and save money. Okay, which is what they which is what what it does, for the very, very simple reason that every other product that these people sell either saves the dentist money and does not affect the billing, or it makes the dentist revenues. So, oh, did I not share my screen there? Oh, all right. Well, in any event, you can go to their website, and because imagine if they tried to market that directly to consumers. Consumers started coming in and asking the dentist to use them. Dentists would say, how come everybody's asking me this stuff? The consumers say, that's easy. It was advertised on the Super Bowl. No dentist would buy any more products from this company. So it's a catch-22. The only way people are going to find out about this is through Quizzify. Okay, so unless there are any other questions, and usually our user groups are a little more vocal, I guess in this case, we must not have any major issues, because DePauli's invitation said you can air your litany of complaints, right? And
Yep.
so far, so good. So I think at this point we can, I believe the next item up, which was time permitting, was to talk about the ROI model, right?
Sure. Should I pull that up on screen?
I can do it. I'll
Okay. All right.
All right. So first I got to get this thing out of the way and then go to, that's the app. We have this ROI calculator here that is new. Some of you haven't seen it. And let me make my screen a little bigger. It's absurdly easy to use. It's completely valid. And the problem, of course, is that nothing is valid in the era of COVID, but you can still get a general sense of it. And you can change any of the assumptions, and all the assumptions are linked to where the assumption comes from. So first you put in the name of your organization, how many people you cover, and then how much you're paying for Quizzify. And then it will tell you what your ROI is. This is kind of the standard one. But then you can go to any of we have now 8 things that are measured in the ROI, and change the assumptions. So for instance, scans. Okay, so the average cost, the healthcare blue book cost mark that you were talking about was for outpatient. When you throw in the hospital-based scans, where if someone gets it in a hospital, it's going to cost much more. You get a price like this, $1,500. But if you think that price is too high, you can replace it with Mark's price. And the event rate per thousand. This is right off of the national average, but you can change that as well. we suspect you're going to get much more than a 5% reduction, because I know everybody I know, everyone on this call is horrified when they find out how much radiation is in a CAT scan. You know, we're not saying you shouldn't get them, but you just need to ask, are you sure we need it? Are you sure you need it? How will it change the diagnosis? You know, that kind of thing. Just all the questions that are on the app that Peter showed you. And then the MRI, which has lower use, lower reduction. It's not full of radiation. There are other reasons not to use it, but it's not as dramatic as the CAT scan. And then you work through, it works through very transparently what the savings are. And the savings just on this, just on the scans from very modest reductions, pay for all of Quizify at Quizify's retail price. Obviously, if you're a larger organization, you're paying less, so you pay for all of Quizify even more. So you can, you know, some of you were on the premature birth webinar. Well, the birth rate is about 1%. The prematurity rate, which has actually been creeping up a little in the last decade, is about 10%. The cost of a NICU stay is going to, you're going to have a lot of NICU stays that are $20,000 to $40,000, but then you're going to have a few that are about $500,000. So this is a decent average, but you know, maybe you don't like that average. Maybe you think, well, maybe it should be lower. Yeah, good luck with that. But and then the particular vendor that has this new indicator, new biomarker to tell people whether they're going to be delivered prematurely or not, is frankly claiming a extremely highly unrealistic amount of reduction in premature birth of I think 92% or something like that. You know, we've gone back through the numbers. We find that their study is, you know, I don't mean to cast aspersions because their study is much better than most, but it's still a bit aspirational. It's also the case that you're not going to, not every mom's going to want the test. Some of the moms are going to deliver even with the test and even with the protocol. All that, by the way, is included in their 92%, but we're putting down 20% just to be on the safe side. And just a 20% reduction in NICU at a rather modest cost. Actually, if you put the 60 back in, you pay for all of Quizify just on that one item. And by the way, this is one where, you know, it honestly wouldn't matter if you saved a nickel. You know, you're trying to make your employees healthier. I mean, what better way to make them healthier, reduce their stress, than by not having premature birth? I mean, I just went through this myself with my grandson. And he was only in NICU for, I don't know, 2 or 3 days or something, but those are 2 or 3 very stressful days. You don't want that with your employees. But nonetheless, the ROI is not about, you know, psychology, it's about arithmetic. So you can change any of these things and get to it. But once again, there is the big caveat that it's all going to be, and all the assumptions, by the way, are sourced. And you can click on the source and see where they come from. Some of them, this came from our webinar, which in turn sources through. But like if you look at our surprise bills, there have been articles on surprise bills recently, and you can click through and decide if you think that our assumptions are reasonable. You can come up with your own model. I just would make the comment that because COVID confounds everything, it just is not possible to truly find the ROI for anything except for the preemies and the and the cavities, because everything else has been going like this, and you don't have a decent baseline for it. That's why we are recommending you know, more measuring the engagement. So that's what I got for you here, and we have 5 minutes.
It's something that just strikes me looking at this now, Al, is, you know, the list on the left, right? ER, scans, spinal fusion, cavity, stents, premature birth, surprise bills. I mean, you know, like if you just asked sort of a typical person, I bet even in the wellness industry, kind of like what would be some ways to save money, they probably would come up with a much more naive list, right?
Of
like,
course. Oh yeah.
You know, exercise more, you know, whatever, right? And it's like, it's kind of like
broccoli.
Yeah, eat more right, and of course that would be good, right? If you eat more broccoli, but not. But this is sort of like Moneyball. It's like, you know, it's like that scene in the movie where all the guys are sitting around saying like, oh, you know, he looks like a good player. Yeah, he's got a good face for a player. And then the numbers guy comes in and is like, you know, okay, let's get average percentage on base. Let's really focus on the things that drive the value. You know.
Yeah, I think it is exactly like that. I mean, literally, you could ask your wellness vendor what the 8 most obvious costs sources of savings would be, and there would be no overlap whatsoever between what they say and what is actually the case. So I'm going to unshare and see if we have any final questions. And I'm not, you know, don't be shy, everybody. I mean, you know, we expect complaints in these meetings. We've never gotten any. But you know,
if there are no volunteers, we're gonna have to volunteer people at random.
Well, actually, I think that would scare them away from future user groups. So I guess we'll just save everybody a few minutes of time then.
Well, I think we did want to go through the editing tool.
Oh,
the quiz
okay.
editing.
Yeah, I think let's do that next time, because we do try to keep these to 45 minutes. And I want, let's lead with it next time, Deepali, because I think it's a very important thing, and I don't want to just stuff it in at the end of the meeting. So that's your tease for next time, is the question editing tool. All right.
Say
and with
that. I would just say on that point, you can edit your own questions. There's a new way. It's in the beta quiz manager, which I showed last time. If anybody would like to know how to do that or has trouble doing that, please just contact me.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for the next user group meeting. We'll just do more of a demo there. But no one should be shy about contacting us. You know, this is for this is what we're here for. Okay. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll
Great,
talk
thank
to you
you.
soon. Going once, going twice.